button. Well, hi everybody, this is it. This is the end of it. You guys have sat around chatting with me for 3.5, almost 4 months, and we had to take a week off here or there, and we've come to the last one. My original intent is for this to have been a very short one, along the line of my usual giving you some time back routine, and just say a couple of thank yous. I can't do that because we've had to, take 1 week and turn it into 2 because it was apparently an interesting conversation. So this one I've had to take 2 in 1, so we finished in the same timeline, primarily because in the next couple of Fridays, all I'm going to be doing is finance. So we're going to go ahead and squeeze 2 into 1. So you have a full day today. I'm going to try not to go long, but I might because I am trying to get in 2 in 1. If that's the case and someone gets annoyed to them, you are more than empowered to tell them Wayne was having a one-on-one conversation with me and wouldn't let me go. People know I truly am that way, so you'll be okay. Now, lesson 12, which, the old 11 and 12, is about creating a culture. With the optional reading was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey, we've often talked about self-help books in many ways are almost cultish, and they build these huge followings. What they really want to do, to be totally honest with you, is make a tremendous amount of money. Stephen Covey had probably one of the most commercially successful ones of all of them. I think How to Win Friends and Influence People had a larger impact many, many moons ago. It certainly changed how management was done in the ensuing decades. But Covey hit the gold mine. So we're going to talk through this one first, talk about how he got ridiculously wealthy in the process. Maybe someday I'll write a book and try to cash in the way these guys have. But really, Covey one was fascinating. So the underlying theme, and I've got my list of 7 steps. I'm going to give you the 7 habits, so you don't got to buy the book, but believe me, it's a good one. This is worth getting. Just again, try to stay away from the cultish aspects of it. The underlying theme is that you need to undergo a paradigm shift in how you view the world, and your interpretation of how the world works before you can apply the 7 habits that he mentions. And for those of you who can read my mind, yes, you're quite right. It is very similar to everybody else's. It is, getting out of the box. It is, as I put it, seeing things with real clarity. It is, in his case, about, and this is some of my notes on this, success in life is a balance of personal and professional needs and capabilities. Is this sounding similar? They are interrelated, intertwined. Covey asks that you always aim true north. That's a big deal with him. So that you're always aligned with the best of your principles and the best of your character. Again, this is all very similar to 3 or 4 books that we've talked about, and they're all pointing to the same things. He specifically calls out 4 things, which are fairness, integrity, service, and human dignity, treating people like people. Again, could this be more out of the box? Could this, be more clarity? Could this be how to win friends and influence people more? I don't think so. It's actually a summarization of many of those, put in the form of a bunch of personal, familial anecdotes. He tells a lot of little personal stories with his family. Not everybody reacts well to that teaching style or to, the parable as learning, but it is very effective, so people stick with it. And remember, if you think about our very first book, The 1 Minute Manager, it too was a series of parables. It's just that Covey felt the need to really fill in everything between the parables to get a book out of it. Fairness, integrity, service, and human dignity. If you think about service, anybody who thinks you're talking about servant leadership, dead on. Human dignity, being outside the box. Fairness and integrity are nothing but clarity. I mean, again, it's the same concepts, done slightly differently. But one thing he states very, very emphatically that I think is probably worth mentioning is once you see that your personal and your professional lives are not divisible, and then what helps and hurts you in one helps and hurts you in the other, then you focus on the steps. I think that's probably the greatest thing in the book. By the way, he tells it much better than I just did. And as I said, this is actually one worth reading if you get around to it. But let's examine that concept that hurt and help in one, hurt and help in the other. Look at stress. Stress at work and at home. If you're stressed in your home life, it absolutely affects you at work. When things get really, really crazy at work, you have to struggle not for it to affect you at home. You are not a business person during the day and a mom or a dad or a brother or a sister or an uncle or a cousin or an aunt, whatever the case may be. At home, you are a complete being, and things that affect you in one are absolutely going to affect you in another. But by the same token, things you learn in one can help you in the other. You learn to be a better husband, a better wife, a better mother, a better father, a better friend. It will lead into how you handle yourself at work. You can become a better person at work, and vice versa. I mean, quite frankly, some of the conflict resolution skills that I learned from mentors and from books and from doing this for, what have I done this, 30 years in IT, helped me at home. I've caught myself on multiple occasions engaging in arguments that had no real reason. I realized that I was being prideful, or I was seeing them as a pain in my keister at the moment and wasn't really listening. That's why that note I sent out last time, Father Forgets, is such a powerful thing to me. I mean, just widely powerful. Because forget is the key term. You forget. And a constant reminder, as I have my, weekly resets, I think is critical. So Stephen Covey hits on the exact same things that all the other ones do. And at some point, you have to sit back and say, if that many hideously clever people are all coming to that same conclusion, maybe I ought to give it a listen. It is tough and it is hard to do the paradigm shift that Covey speaks of, to get out of the box, as the Arbringer Institute says, to see people as friends that you have to make, as Carnegie says, or just to see as clarity, as I generally spout off about my glasses. But you really need to. If you want to be the kind of boss that can lead a high-performing team, if you want to be the kind of person that can be trusted to handle more and more. At a previous job, I had a $125 million budget. They don't just give that away because you're good at something. They do it because they trust who you are as a person. You have to build that up. And on that point, by the way, the whole home life, home thing, tell you guys a secret. You remember those tests you took when you first came to work here, the personality test? No, I can't remember what that thing was called, which is embarrassing, really. But we have a series of tests that we take people. If somebody remembers what it is, let me know. Everybody here has had to take it. At previous companies, I took something called the Michigan test. Oh, somebody wrote something. Brandon, thank you. Yes, the Predictive Index. Fascinating thing that you may or may not know, most people don't, is the questions are stated really cleverly to tell them how you deal with stress, learning, and situations in your private life and in your work life, and then they intercompare. And truth. When they talk about how people view you versus how you view yourself, somewhere in all that little data is how are you in your home and how are you at work, and do the two equal? Do they measure up? The real search there, in addition to the obvious, which is, do you like learning? Can you take criticism? That sort of thing. Which, I'm not sure. It depends on how you look at it. But the real thing they're going for is, do you have an even keel? Are you the same at home as you are at work? Which is, are you a balanced person? Are you real? Are you sincere? Are you the person you think you are and that you claim to be? That's actually what they're going for there. Now, you can argue there's other predictors in there as well. Not even going to get into it, but it's fascinating that that's one of their key views, that they try to do. And that also exists in the Michigan Personality Index and every other bloody one that's out there. It's all about, are you on an even keel? Aha! Nautical again. Are you on an even keel? Because that matters. If you're faking it at work, if you're pretending to be something you're not, you're going to fail under stress. They want to know that you're really who you are. And that's one of the things that test and every other test like it measures. So again, Stephen Covey, dead right in what he was saying. And these are known predictors of success that we have in our industry and every other industry. In fact, sociologists talk about balance in view. Same thing. So very clear that you have to be who you are. You can't put on a work hat during the day and a home hat at night. You just have to be you, and you have to learn the skills to handle them both and not let the two beat each other up, if that makes sense. Now, once you've had the paradigm shift, once you realize that the you are is all that you are, and you can't fake it, then Covey starts talking about improving. So let's go through his 7 steps, and most of them are right on the money, and a few of them are, well, let's just say they're overstated. We'll see what you think. All right. Number 1, be proactive. So, this should be self-explanatory, right? Don't wait for problems. Don't wait for needs. Get up, get in front of it, et cetera, et cetera. You would think that's self-evident. You would think that's something people want to do. No, not so. A lot of people come into work every day, look at their email with a sense of dread. I hope there's nothing here I have to deal with. Don't be that person. Find the things that you need to deal with. 2, begin, end. So the actual term, and I'm just not going to write it all out, is begin with the end in mind. Okay? Which literally means visualize what you're trying to accomplish. See it, move forward, look at it every single day. That's where you're going, that's where you're going every day. Every single thing you do should be focused toward achieving that goal. There are a bunch of books, from The Secret on, that I'll talk about visualization as a power. It's a focus technique. Keeps your eye on the ball. It's as simple as it gets. Number 3. I love that he had to write this. God only knows how much he made with this. First things first. I'd like to make $1 million by stating the obvious. Thank you. Priorities. That's really all it is. But you'd be surprised how many people in the day-to-day grind of their job forget. So-and-so's mad, so-and-so's yelling, oh, I got an email from so-and-so. Priorities. That can wait. And remember, when we talked about, time management and leadership, your first priority first in the day, your second priority second in the day, the third. He's really just saying the same thing. 4, I love this one. Think, win. I'm sure you guys, some of you, if not all of you, have heard me from time to time say, we need to find a way to yes, right? What does that entail? It means getting everybody on the same page, getting everybody together. Find a way that it's a win-win for everybody. You will find in many of your conflicts and many of your issues, there really always was a win-win, but somebody stated it with too much passion, somebody stated it with too much pride, someone made it personal, et cetera, et cetera. Stop, step back. You don't have to have conflict in everything you do. Find the win-win. It is almost always there. I promise you, almost always. I'm not saying you don't have bad actors. I'm not saying people aren't ridiculous sometimes. Believe me, I can tell you some horror stories. But in general, as I've said before, you've heard me say it before, nobody gets up in the morning and says, I want to do a bad job today. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, you know what? I just want to annoy Will Handelman. I want to tweak Peter Moody. I want to call Michael Ely and just set him up. No one does it. People are trying to do the right thing. There's probably a win-win. It's your job to find it. All right, 5. First, he uses it slightly differently, but I swear I think he was paid by the word. First, understand. Second, and again, this isn't how he works, be understood. So first understand, then be understood. He wrote something this long to say that same thing. What does this mean? Don't pop off at the mouth. Be measured in your approach. Be considered in your decisions. Hear all sides. Nothing that you and I haven't spoke about for the last 3.5 months. Okay? However, I will tell you the way he describes it actually is somewhat powerful. So if you do get a chance to read, pay attention to this one. Again, it isn't something we haven't already discussed, but it's a very strong the way he writes it. 6, synergize. I hate that word. I hate business speak in general. It makes my teeth hurt. But in this case, I mean, how many times have we spoke about that? The team is greater than the sum of the parts. It's the same thing. By the way, so are resources and joint outcomes. Anything you can do ought to be able to affect multiple things. I think he could have taken this a little further. I think it was a little bit much business jargon, but your mileage may vary. You may enjoy that. Number 7 is absolutely the best thing, and I'm going to make a point on it that he doesn't. Not that I'm cooler, I just look at it differently. Sharpen the saw. Can anybody guess what that means? I'm not actually playing hide the ball here, I'm just talking out loud. Sharpen the saw. Better it. Make it better. Make sure you're better. Study, learn, teach. Get everybody together on the same page. Improve it every single day. Sharpen the saw. Now, here's what I'd like to point out, and this is kind of a big deal for me. It doesn't say have a sharp saw. It doesn't say be perfect. It doesn't say be often. It says improve. And that's the big deal. You're never going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. And no one's perfect. We're always going to make mistakes. We're always going to react with our pride instead of our mind. We're always going to miss the mark. It simply is the human condition, and you have to forgive yourself for that. The point is improve. Sharpen the saw. I do want to talk about the second great teaching of Covey, which is not part of these 7 things. Organization and taking notes. Throughout the book, they talk about being organized. And when he got cultish, did he? And they started doing, these little speeches everywhere. The speeches turned into seminars. The seminars turned into paid people who just concentrated on seminars. Then they divided the United States in grid. I'm not making any of this up. They divided the United States in grids, and they actually sold little groups and little areas, and there were little different companies that were, trying to talk about how they could teach Covey stuff. And then they started appearing in malls. They were so into organization and notes. You couldn't go to a major mall in the United States that didn't have a Covey store. And in fact, some of them still exist, where they sold, binders and books and things that looked suspiciously like the binders that I bought for my 16-year-old to keep all of her classes separated, but they charged $100 for them. Go you. All right? Covey made all the money in the world off that. More power to them, more power to the organization, more power to all the little teams that spoke for Covey that had nothing to do with him. And that's most of them, by the way. But what's the point? I mean, what do you learn about that? Notes matter. Knowledge matters. And the higher you go up in an organization, I'll let you in on a dirty little secret. The higher you go up, the less people you know well. You're going to know a few well. You can know up to several dozen very well. But do I know the names of the wives and the husbands of all 150 people that report to me? No. I wish I did. I don't. There comes a point where it becomes somewhat impossible. People leave, people come, people leave, people come. And I'm not belittling and saying you learn the ones that are next to you. It's just a reaction to proximity more than anything, or the amount of time you speak to them. But you can't. Covey and the later seminars from Covey all talked about note-taking, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Everybody at the upper end does it in one form or another. You do occasionally get a person, I know a sales guy at a previous company. I've told the story to a lot of people. I was in his office talking to him. He was an executive, not just run-of-the-mill sales guy. Big shot. I'm in his office talking to him, and his cell phone rang. No name, just a number. And he looked at it and he said, Wayne, I'm really sorry. I've been waiting on this. I really got to talk to him. Can you give me just 1 minute? I said, absolutely. Picks up his phone, and says, Tom, there was no name on that phone. Tom, great, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. How's your wife? Blah, blah, blah. Are your kids still playing golf? Da, 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 da. What's it been? 2 years? I'm not making that up. So you get some people that are just blessed with the memory for errata and data around other people's lives. And a lot of them become salespeople because it's a relationship building tool. But most of us can't. So we take notes. In my phone, there's a coffee shop out in Parker I'd love to go to. It's a wonderful place. I'm not going to use the name of anybody real there because someday, things get around. I don't want anything said. We'll say her name was Karen. She's the day shift manager. I didn't know that. All I knew is there was a very short brunette woman, and I say short not because I'm being picky, but because I couldn't see much of her over the bar. There was a short woman who asked for my order. Very nice. Very nice. So I'm going to call her Karen. The second time I went in, it was the same person. You got to start noticing these things. I asked her name. She said it was Karen. I wrote it down in a note. It said, Karen, short brunette, coffee shop. I'm not making that up. And I titled it Coffee Shop. Next to it, over time, it said family lives in Maine, likes classic rock, finishing college. Wow, what a wonderful mnemonic tool to remember someone's name and something about them. I can walk in and go, hey, Karen, how are you? What are we listening to disco for? Karen feels very much like I have taken a deep personal interest in her, and I have. The note doesn't make it any less sincere. It just makes it possible for me to remember one person out of hundreds. And the higher you go up in an organization, the harder that is to do. Covey and the seminars spoke about, frankly, taking extraordinary notes in order to allow that to happen. By the way, there's 3 other people that work there. I have the same write-up in all of them. I can walk in and say, Karen, Sheila, how you doing? Debbie, how you been? Your parents coming down? I need to be able to do that. It's a skill that I work on, and the higher you go in an organization, the more important that skill is. It's easy for me to say, I know Art Bert's wife's name is Rhonda because I've known him God knows how many years. But it's the fact that I can do that and remember that and let people know they're important to me. And the foibles and the failings of the human mind shouldn't get in the way of them knowing they're important to you. So take notes. Ask questions. Learn about your people. Write it down. I've said several times, it frustrates me that nobody else in this office, except for the people that work for me, know the fact that our janitor's name is Raimundo. You should know. You should ask. Write it down. Remember it. Don't let the natural, you've seen it. Someone's introduced themselves at a party. 5 minutes later, you can't remember their name, and you pray to God someone will say their name so you remember. Take notes. Take notes. That was the biggest thing I think Covey taught me, because everything else he taught, frankly, is nothing that anybody else wasn't saying. Now, kind of long, but I think Covey deserved it. Let's go into the lecture. Culture and development plans. Kind of a big deal. We write corrective action plans constantly. Everywhere I go, someone's on a cap. On average, at a company of this size, there's probably about 30, 40 people on. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But legitimately, there are going to be that many people on development plans. Is what it is, human nature. Someone's missed the mark. We take time, effort, and energy to teach people how to manage towards poor performance. We don't teach people how to raise the bar. So I want to talk to you about something I do called a development plan. I write 4 to 5 major goals that can significantly affect the company with specific measurable outcomes. And it's usually time-bound, anywhere from 9 months to 18 months, a year and a half. Although that will depend on the level of the person involved and how much an impact they're going to have. Never less than 9 months, though, ever. I may do one verbally with somebody who is at an entry-level position. Maybe that one doesn't go as long. But what are they and what are they not? A dev plan is not an automatic raise. A dev plan is not an automatic promotion. They are a serious challenge, something that can really impact things and add more value to the company. They demonstrate this person's ability to function at a higher level, and they are virtually impossible to reach without a significant personal investment and strong focus from the employee. What does that all mean? Well, it means simply, I'm not giving you a gift, and it's not a guarantee. And if I write something like this down, you're going to work for it. And you have to raise the bar to achieve it. And I promise you, anybody that I've ever promoted earned it the hard way. Let me tell you why. The hardest thing to do as a boss, kind of similar to delegation, but not really. This is a whole nother level. The hardest thing to do as a boss is to step back. When you write a development plan for someone, when you give them these massive goals, they have to be goals, as I said, that has impact for the company, more impact than they can have in their current position operating as they are. They have to raise the bar. And the hardest thing for you to do is to step back and let them fail. But you cannot, apart from advice, you cannot affect the outcome of this. It is completely up to them. You must never give leeway. You can never approve the final result if a single goal is missed, because if you do, you will ruin them. You will absolutely send the message that close enough is good enough. You can't do that. If you're doing something like this for somebody, it's because they have value, they have worth. You're trying to help them raise themselves and achieve something. You can't make it easy, and you can't cheat for them. What they do has to be legitimately solid. I'd say the truth is actually evolutionary biology. I've had this conversation before, and people have said, Wayne, you're talking about us like you're training dogs. When I actually said that to my face, more power to you. Well, yeah. Not because I'm comparing people to dogs, but because evolutionary biology has been going on for 500 million years, and social hierarchies are part of nature. And it is literally 500 million years of evolution get us to where we are. And yes, you have to raise the bar to get the goodie. It's the same thing. But it's the same thing in dogs. It's the same things in elephants. It's the same things in people. We're just all carbon-based forms of life in that regard. I'm not comparing people to a lower form of life, whatever that may or may not be. I'm simply saying that the message you send by rewarding mediocre behavior is bad. And let me be very clear. I keep talking about Wayne's rules, right? Wayne's rule. No one is owed a promotion or a big fat raise either for that regard. No one is owed a promotion because they do a job extremely well. No one is owed a promotion because they're a top performer. No one is owed a promotion as a measure of appreciation for being just wonderful people. No, that's not how it works. It is a strategic change to bring about a greater impact in your organization from a key player with the potential to bring that change about. Did everybody hear that? A strategic change to bring about something, great impact, from a person with the potential to do it. All right? You're not giving out goodies. I really like you. Here's a promotion. If you want affection by a dog, speaking of dogs, you have to think as the boss of the betterment of the entire organization. If I have a position for a senior fill in the blank, and I say, well, I like Eddie. Eddie's awesome. Eddie's been really great. I'm going to put Eddie into that role. The net effect is no increase in skill. The net effect is no increase in impact. I'm either going to do one of two things. I'm either going to find somebody from outside and bring them in that can have that level of impact, or I'm going to give a development plan and the opportunity to someone inside my organization to create that level of impact. But the end result of any promotion has to be an improvement for your organization. You aren't here to give out money. You aren't here just to be nice to people who are nice to you. You're here to take care of the ship. You're here to take care of the organization. You do that by managing to the three basic principles of people, finance, and political capital. You've got to improve with something that costs finance, right? You've got to. So you're not here to be everybody's buddy. You're here to improve the situation for everybody. Again, a promotion is not a statement of appreciation. A development plan is not a statement of, I'm fixing to give you this, I just need to go through the paperwork. It is a strategic change. Keep that in your mind as you do this. There are several people here, I'm looking at the participant list, There were several, yes, there are several people here, multiple, who have been through development plans with me. Anybody think it was easy? It was very tough, and the goals were very high. By the way, this is why I often pre-promote. I put people in a position of authority before I give them promotion. I've heard people complain about that. Well, why don't you just give them promotion? Because I got to see if they can prove it. I've asked several people on my team to make changes in their organization and put people in charge of these things and these peoples and these projects. There's no change to their pay. There's no change to their title. I said, show me if they can do it. And if they can do it, that's what I reward. It's the impact that you have to reward, not the good people. And I'm going to call a name out, and I'll apologize to Kevin right now. Does everybody know Sarah Bremen? Phenomenal person. Work absolutely top notch. She's running a larger group. She's managing more functions than she used to manage. But Kevin correctly put her there and said, see if you can do these things and get back to me. He did, she did. She knocked it out of the park. Now she owns that position, and that's what she does. I could go through a list of several other people, but the plain fact of the matter is as nice a person as Sarah is, and she is, she's a genuine human being. It was a genuine pleasure to meet her, and her work is absolutely top notch. I don't know if I've ever seen better. She's really all that in a bag of potato chips. I hope nobody minds I'm picking on her, but it's just the first name that came up. But we don't give presents here, and there are no participation awards. She proved she could have an impact, got the position, and she's doing great at it, And everybody on my leadership team has been through this with me too, by the way. Even the ones that I've known for years, because at the end of the day, it's more important that the impact happens and that they raise the bar and that we as an organization continue to succeed. That's how you have to be if you're going to run a high-performing team. Now, I think we've kind of come close to the end, right? I just wanted to talk about dev plans and culture, but let's talk about what is culture anyway. We had a manager, senior manager, several years ago, 2 years ago, I think, that left us. They had, I don't know, how many guys in running IT did you have here before I got here? It was almost like one every 9 months. I think Kamalesh was here a little while longer, but not much. A little over a year, I guess. But it had been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got one of my folks out there always reminds me that she's had 18 bosses, which is still just mind-blowing to me. Anyway, I had a senior manager that left about 2 years ago, angrily, because I was going to do these changes and I was going to change kind of how we manage. I got a note. 22 bosses. Thank you very much. Okay. After all the bosses and all the changes, he was very very discomfited, just not happy. I was going to make changes in how we operate, how we measure things, how we, focus on drama, consistency, uptime, voice of the client, client first, all these different things represented a pretty major culture shift. And when he left, he did an exit interview. And for the record, if you do an exit interview, it does get back to your boss. Not all bosses listen. I try. But it did get back to me. When he left, his comment was, how was he going to know if Wayne was even going to be here next year? Wow, that's a painful comment. That's harsh. Really had nothing to do with me. I was just another guy coming in trying stuff. What he was reacting to was the lack of a consistent culture. The lack of knowing day in and day out what the right thing to do is and how you're measured, how you're rewarded, and how you're promoted and all the rest. It had just changed so many times. I mean, I know some of the people that were here before. I'm friends with some of the people that were here before. I don't manage like them at all. We have wildly divergent views on things like that. And what works for them works for them. Not here to judge. Not how I do business. He left. I tried to talk him out of it, by the way, when he was first making noise about it, and I hope you can, see fit to give us a chance. But he didn't think so, and he left. Understood. That's okay. Well, we've been here now 2.5, heading toward 3 years now, guys. this January so far, oh my God, not good. JB Vernon's going to kill me. You know, we're at 100% uptime for January 2018. Shh, don't tell anybody, it'll break. Last year we had 5 nines for the year. 5 nines for the year. No one else in our industry does that. The only other people that are close to it aren't counting circuit carriers. We do. It's very impressive. It really is. We've made some pretty major changes. We went through Deploy Fest. I mean, we've done some incredible things. Right now, BI is moving the universe to get us away from Oracle and several financial and now we know security risks. I'll tell you what, this team is operating on all cylinders. I'm just proud to be here. But we changed the culture. There had been no solid culture here. It had been this guy gone, this one gone, this girl gone, this guy gone, this girl gone. Just insane. I couldn't even be mad when he left. Who wouldn't feel that way? You know? I walked in here the very first day. I'm not kidding. I had a couple of engineers here. They walked up to me and said, "Great to meet you, Mr. White. When are you laying us off?" That happened my first day. I was like, wow, okay, can we back up? My name's Wayne. Let's start over, you know? That's a sign of a lack of culture. That's a sign of a lack of stability. So how do you build a solid culture? I can tell you what I think helped me. I can tell you what I think helped us. Your mileage may vary a little bit, but I think it's kind of an encapsulation of everything we've talked about for the last 3.5 months. It is not what you say. It is not what you order or a goal you set, something you say needs to be done. It's not even really what you do day to day. It's what you embody. You know, I put those 10 rules up on my wall. Everybody's seen them, because I wanted it really plain what we needed to focus on. We don't actually use those like we used to anymore. I mean, those were like the emergency rules when we were, you know, on fire. You know, communicate, client up, roll back, ownership, consistency, all those things. But I left them there just because it reminds me of where we used to be when that kind of a concept was new. I mean, everybody here knows client first. You guys say it to me now. Wow, how the worm has turned. But I leave them there just to remind me, because you can go backwards. Absolutely. But it was the beginning of a start of a culture. So the first step, if you're going to have a culture, Wayne's opinion, is bettering yourself, having empathy, getting out of the box, or my own way of saying it, seating with clarity, right? And once you've started down that path, try to share it with others. Try to bring people into, let's all get better together in what we do. That's the only way to make a culture that lasts. It is. That and teaching. I'm a firm believer on it. So on that note, let's talk about what we've learned in the last 3 months. Almost 4 months. Alignment of effort and laminar flow. Remember that? And we talked about the speed of trust and drifting and the rest. Self-driven management and basic management techniques. The 1 minute manager and the 1 minute praise and on and on. Very basic. Common mistakes and checklists against progress. Reset meetings with yourself. We talked about effective delegation and time management. Those were 2 big ones. Team makeup and drags. Not everybody has to be going, but you better have most everybody going. Conflict and roadblocking techniques. Influence and teamwork. That's one of my favorites. And finally, culture and clarity. These are the things we've talked about for 4 months. So the question really is, do you want a success, or do you want to be somewhere positive? Then you either have to be, as in currently are, or build. That's harder, but it's doable. Someplace where people matter. Someplace where results matter. Someplace where support and alignment matter. And if you think back to our very first meeting, didn't I just tell you, again, differently, the 3 things that you manage? People, finances, and political capital? It really all comes to that. If you simply manage to those with clarity, that's important. And if you internalize that clarity as part of yourself, if you consistently seek to improve yourself, sharpen the saw. Don't be perfect, just strive. And if you do that with clarity, you're already on your way. In fact, I would say you're well over halfway there. The rest is just check boxes and sticking to it and making sure you haven't gone off course here or there. That's all it takes. It's clarity and it's honesty and managing those three things. And if you do those, you're not a manager anymore. You can be a leader. And that's what I hope for all of you. So there is no more next week. I don't have a next week to tell you about. I do think we're going to put these recordings somewhere. You guys are welcome to them. I hope you found something in all this to assist you with finding clarity, and thank you very much, and thank you sincerely for taking this journey with me. So, are there any questions for the last time? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Let me know if you need me. Thank you very much for attending. You guys have a great day.